Thanks, Pablo. So this is an excerpt from the interview that I did, and I basically, just to kind of fill you in, it's going to start at a point where I asked Toody that they pretty much started the do-it-yourself scene in Portland, Oregon, and they're the grandfathers, I guess, of this grassroots movement, and I'm going to start the interview now.
A way to make it work.
I find country music and punk music are almost the same thing, but just slightly different. People are singing about their angst and things that they'd like to change.
Yeah,
right?
How you do it and what you're saying.
And I just wanted you to give me maybe perhaps your definition of punk, what that means to you.
To me, well, naturally, punk rock was, kind of coined on all the original stuff out of Britain and whatnot in the 70s. But to me, it just became kind of more lifestyle, like you say. It varied from being very political to just being, like you say, just expressing your frustration and your anger and your love and your this and your that, all the hot emotions, and it was just a real primal kind of primitive way to do it, and it happened to be perfect for us and a lot of other people at the same particular point, because the regular mainstream rock and roll at that point was just so overproduced and just so homogenous and no real identity to anything. And punk rock allowed everyone to put their own individual twist on it and get their own
like signature, right?
To that form of music.
You're spanning a time, I guess, early 1980s till today, and you went from having the Rats to the Range Rats, Dead Moon, and then Pierced Arrows.
Yeah, correct.
And you've always played together. So, I mean, how do you find the dynamic between husband and wife touring? Like how?
Well, for us, it's always worked just to work together, no matter what we're doing. So music just happens to be one other aspect of our life. I mean, we've always, raised our kids together and took care of the band and the band house and all that kind of stuff. And then, had our guitar shop together and worked in business. So we're a team, period. And so it wouldn't matter if we weren't playing music; we'd be doing something else together. So it works perfectly for us. And as far as being on the road, it's ideal, because either one of us would be crazy if one person had to take off for months at a time, and the other one had to stay home. That would be really, really difficult. So I feel really lucky that we're able to do something like this together, share the same experiences and memories, and enjoy the whole adventure together instead of separately.
It seemed like most of your touring was done in Europe.
We toured all over the place. We started out in Europe in 1990, and then as of 92, I think it was, we went to New Zealand, and then later Australia, and then started touring the U.S., and so pretty much every year we were touring Europe and the U.S., and sometimes, every other year, every 2 or 3 years, going back to Australia and New Zealand. And then one year we did a pretty intensive tour of all the major Canadian cities as well. And we've always kind of gone up and hit Vancouver, BC, just because it's part of the Pacific Northwest and easy to get up and down the West Coast. Pretty much toured all over the place.
Yeah. So you've been. Have you ever ventured down to South America? I guess not really.
No, we've done a couple of one-off gigs in Mexico recently, but we really haven't done the Mexico thing.
Okay.
Our drummer, Kelly Halliburton,
yes.
Has toured extensively with punk bands all through Indonesia and Mexico and South America and all over the place. But he's been a lot more places than we have.
I find that you guys have quite the artistic sovereignty. You're true to your sound and propagate like a really positive kind of take on like everyday life experiences almost, I guess. And
I mean, part of that's the age and the fact that we have lived through a lot more stuff than anybody that's 20 or 30 that's listening to us has been through yet, and you'll get there too. However you express yourself and what you learn to accept and how you deal with things and all the rest of it. It's just a matter of being on the planet long enough to have experienced all those different things, the good and the bad.
Right, and to show gratitude, I guess, for what comes your way, no matter what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of have the attitude that, you know, everything happens for a reason. It all works out, whether you can see it or not. No matter how terrible it seems, sometimes it's the best thing that could have happened. You just don't realize it yet.
Exactly.
So,
I find it really neat.
Wait her out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it really shows, for example, that you took whatever tools you had accessible and made your music happen. Like, just for example, you giving Fred a slicer for his, doing recording his music.
The disc cutter.
Yeah, the disc cutter. So it's kind of amazing, like, that's what he had, so that's what he chose to record his music on, and instead of trying to buy something else, you know what I mean? Like, I found that pretty neat.
It just happened to be one of his dreams was to be able to do that at some point. Never thought that would happen, and we just got lucky, and it all worked, and took some time to get it together and get it working, but he's in love with the thing, which is great. Nobody else achieve something that they've always dreamed about and thought would be so great, and then when they actually do it, it is.
That's right. So I find
being a disappointment.
You've both been a very empowering force in each other's relationship. It's really neat to see, and I just wanted to ask about Fred's health.
His health is really great. He had to go through open heart surgery last April. In 2014, and they did a triple bypass, and so it took him close to a year to really recover, and and kind of get his strength back. He's still, we probably won't do any more touring per se. Well, this is kind of one of the last kind of road trip things that we're going to do.
Right.
It's just a lot easier on him just to do the duo thing. But as far as the rock and roll stuff, it's just like he's still loving doing it. Just playing one night or maybe two nights in a row. But we used to tour to where we were doing 60 dates and playing 6 days straight and 1 day off, traveling every day, loading gear in and out every day, and it's just, that's too much for him anymore.
Yeah.
But other than that, his health is really good. He's good.
That's wonderful to hear, and you've always, I feel like, have had the same demeanor.
Yeah.
Very, very together.
Never say die.
That's right, and I find that really encouraging. Especially for, like, you may get this question a lot, but for being a female and, playing bass guitar and, playing with your husband, but it's pretty much, it's both of you, not just him, for example. Like, the duo really comes together on stage, and you see the importance of your integral part in it and his.
Oh, yeah, I have for a long time. It's become kind of a unique thing, the blend of our playing and singing as far as, what's become Dead Moon, Fred and Toody, whatever we're doing, it's a big part of it.
It's pretty impressive. Like, Dead Moon has 10 studio albums, 3 compilations. You have 5 live albums out, 11 singles. So the creativity doesn't seem to stop.
We haven't been in and recorded any new material in quite a while. We started doing some with Pierce Darrows, but we weren't really happy with the results that we got. So at some point we may go back in and redo it. And Fred's still writing, some, not nearly the floodgate, that was happening way back, in Dead Moon. We've just kind of got a lot of other things on our mind, and at this point he's got so many songs out there already, and so many songs that everybody wants to hear one more time. So, there's not really the demand for really new material either. So at this point we're, kind of going back and doing the classics in the duo that Fred and I are doing. There's going to be a few songs that probably no one has ever heard before that have been written within the last year.
That's awesome. And you're starting your tour in Vancouver, then Calgary, and then you're coming to Montreal.
We're playing a Dead Moon show in Vancouver at the Levitation Festival, and then Fred and I are actually going to stop and play in Winnipeg.
Okay.
And then come to Montreal. And then we're going to go down the East Coast and play a few towns, Baltimore, Philly, and, whatever. And then do Calgary on the way back. And we have a Dead Moon show in Brooklyn. So it's kind of, a little bit all over the place.
Yeah. That's super awesome. I just wanted to ask you about your ritual prayer before performing, or before you have your throwdown.
You're talking about, or?
I guess maybe mostly with Pierce Darrow's.
Yeah, with Dead Moon, we do a handshake, which is just like, hey, we're in here together. Let's, whatever happened before, I love you, blah blah blah. With Pierce Darrow's, after we'd been a band together for a year, I commissioned a friend of mine that's a jewelry maker to make some sterling silver rings with arrowheads in them, and gave them to Fred and Kelly on a New Year's Eve gig that we did in New Zealand.
Cool.
So when we do that in Pierce Darrow's, we're touching our 3 rings together. So kind of the same thing.
That's wonderful.
It's just a common bond. It's like, let's do this together.
That's great. I was wondering if you have any favorites at the moment, any music that's out there that you enjoy listening to.
Well, believe it or not, and everybody asks us this question all the time, Fred and I do not listen to music hardly ever.
Okay, that's awesome.
We really don't. We love movies. We watch movies a lot. We probably listen to our own music more than anything else. When we just kind of want to chill, our favorite stuff to listen to is Howlin' Wolf and Johnny Cash and Brenda Lee and, really old stuff.
Yeah.
And really don't pay any attention to what's going on the radio or what new music's out. The only kind of new music we ever hear is whatever bands we happen to either talk or drive in silence or, just kind of kick back, enjoy the view, and it's kind of road trips for us are very therapeutic because our lives are pretty chaotic when we're at home.
Okay. So
that stillness is very welcome.
That's wonderful. Do you think the fact that you've had a record label like Tombstone Record has released I guess Dead Moon and Pierce Darrow's, correct me if I'm wrong, and then do you find that has allowed you to have freedom of expression without anyone really telling you what should be done, kind of thing?
Yeah, you don't have anybody telling you when, what, where. You're doing it on your, you're paying for it yourself. You're doing it on your own dime. We've had a few different records that we've released, like on Music Maniac in Europe, and
in
here
Germany,
and now Mississippi Records is doing a lot of the
reissuing. Yeah.
And that happened to work out great at the time, and we were just touring so much we didn't have time to take care of all those little details. So, so not opposed to working with, with anybody else. But yeah, just doing our own label, and it gave us a chance too to help a lot of local bands, help them get their 45s out and get a start and achieve their dream of having, something on vinyl. So,
right.
It's been great. It's kind of almost a thing of the past. We're not really doing much with the label anymore. But, but it was great while it lasted. It's been like 30 years, so it's a long time.
It really is. Like, what's kind of a typical day for Toody? Is there such a thing?
Well, we're still doing, online sales with stuff for Dead Moon and Pierce Darrow's both. So I pretty much take care of all of that and get all that together and make a run-in once a week to the post office. Beyond that, we live in Oregon, okay, so it rains a lot. Mm-hmm. And every spring, this time of the year, we live out in the country, and we have 21 acres, so it's a huge job just fighting the vegetation. We've been out there mowing lawns and whacking weeds and, just doing that kind of stuff.
That's wonderful.
Getting together, practicing, whatever.
That's wonderful. So it keeps you keep active and focus on in your home. And then I guess you're just doing your tour whenever that comes about.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking time to speak to me today. And I will definitely be able to see you.
Hello to everyone. We're looking forward to seeing Montreal again. It's a beautiful city. And having ourselves a time.
And
okay, good. All right,
thank you. See you soon.
Okay.